Dum, 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 dum. Hello, welcome to the Shibari podcast. Today, our guest is legendary Andy Buru. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you.
And we also have Heidi, who is also asking questions and telling about her experiences and thoughts.
Yeah, hello.
How are you doing, Andy?
I just woke up after sleeping in the lunch break. So I am, just waking up.
So in putting context, we are at the moment in sauna and in a dark sauna, and each of our podcasts have been in a strange place. Like last time, I think we did under the bed sheets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and with me it was like this pre-room of a sauna. So it's like a second sauna podcast for me.
And now we are in the sauna with the after heat from this morning.
Exactly.
Yeah, Andy, why is it that every time you hold the retreat here, there is like sauna is like really important for you? We usually have sauna like at least twice a day.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's very nice. I mean, it's a good way to relax the body and mind and kind of come back to yourself after having a long day of crazy experiences. And yeah, it's also really good for my body. It loves being in sauna. And when I travel so much, it's hard to find saunas everywhere. So then this is the place.
Yes. So, yes, we're having right now this retreat about shame. So I thought like I'm going to ask some shameful questions today. So you said yesterday that something interesting that we are not going to treat the shame, but we're going to just observe it and play with it. I think something similar you said, or maybe I remember it my way. It's like interesting experience that we have been playing with shame.
I think like first, if you have like traumatic relationship to shame, so that every time you feel shame, you have a trauma response, you need to run away, you disassociate, or you have a panic attack, then you don't treat it in a retreat. Because here we are like about to learn about ropes and experience maybe like the erotic sides of shame. So that's why we're not like doing a healing thing. We are more experiencing our relationship to shame and like how you can play with it. And like, I think it's a big part of rope bondage about like letting go of control and trusting in someone else and being naked and being seen. There is like all of this kind of, when people first started bondage, all these kind of easy feelings like being held, being taken care of. And that's kind of, for me, like the surface that you need to come to and experience. But then underneath that, there's so many other things that is more interesting when you have this space of trust and kind of, trust and surrender and vulnerability and like the space where you can explore these emotions. And then I think shame for me is very high up on the list of interesting emotions.
How is it for you, Heidi?
Well, I know that Andy didn't want this retreat to be healing, but it is. I see from the group energy as well that I think when you don't force healing, it kind of comes as a side effect. No, so maybe it's like something that's constantly happening in the background, in a sense.
Yeah, I think you can say that it can have therapeutic effects, but it's not therapy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but for me, it's awesome actually to be courageous enough to come and be with the topic itself. It's already a big thing. So there is about around 20 enthusiasts just now that are actually very brave people. Yeah, very proud.
So what's good about shame and what's bad about shame?
Oh, that's a big question. I think what's good about shame is that it makes you vulnerable, and it helps you understand how you construct your reality. And I think it depends very much what people are ashamed about. Like some people are ashamed about their their physical looks and their bodies. And that kind of means that their bodies is a very big part of who they are and how they present themselves to the world. Other people are ashamed about not being able to always do perfectly. They're very like perfectionistic people. And then that says a lot about your reality, that you are kind of, that you don't allow yourself to be bad or to fail or to relax. And like other people, they feel shame about their sexuality, maybe to grow up in a very kind of religious space. So I think using shame is a way to kind of challenge your ideas about yourself and maybe have them proven wrong. Because maybe you are ashamed about sexuality, but then you're in a room full with 20 other happy pervert family people. And then you realize that you don't have to be ashamed of your sexuality. Yes. And then there's also something else that happens, because when you feel ashamed and you can be with emotions so that you don't have to run away from them, but you can actually feel them, then it kind of will increase arousal in the body. Like it will make your heartbeat go faster, it will make you a bit sweaty, it will make you very attentive. And just as in all like BDSM play, this goes very well together with sexual arousal. Mm-hmm. So like just as pain and pleasure becomes the same at high levels of arousal, I would say that shame and pleasure also gets the same at high levels of arousal. And then I would say that bad shame is shame that you don't have the resources to deal with or feel, so that if you either run away or if you disassociate or if you end up in a panic, there's kind of, it's too much. Mm-hmm. So if that your relationship to shame is that any little thing that might be shameful might kick you very far out of your comfort zone all the way into like a trauma zone or trauma response, then like it's not good for you to explore shame. So it really is about dosing it in the right amount.
You don't really share much about your own personal stuff in the courses, but now we have you here. And what are you ashamed of? You haven't spoken about that.
I mean, it depends a little bit what role I'm in. Being the one who is submissive, it has a lot to do with also this not being perfect, and losing control in a way. I think that is the experience that I'm looking for, losing control of my body and my emotional responses and my bodily responses, and maybe also my feelings, to like have someone else being able to control how I feel and how I respond. I think that is very interesting or very like rewarding or sexy or arousing. Yeah, I think that is my... Yeah, and I think then shame around, otherwise it's like hurting other people and doing bad things. I think I feel a lot of shame for like being a bad citizen or a bad person in a group or in a social context.
I find myself like when I talk about the things to my friends or to people around me, what I'm ashamed about, I feel later like this release or this freedom or this also like courage, and already talking about it is like gives me like a lot of strength already. But also there's like one thing is talking about strength, talking about your shame. But other thing is doing like shameful things. It's like it's also another interesting dynamic that.
Yeah, I mean, I think talking about it can be good, but I think it needs to be like a somatic experience in the body to be really interesting. And then some people get the somatic experience, like in the ritual that we did last night, where you kind of, through a meditation and trance, get to confess or talk about your shame in front of a group. And then most people, because it's such a vulnerable space, they usually get a somatic experience also, that like they feel their body, their like heart beating, maybe they're sweating. So they get to actually feel the shame also. But I think like just this intellectualizing shame, I think is maybe not so interesting. It's this the experience that I'm looking for.
This one subject really interests me. Shame and humiliation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the question of what the different words means. Because I think there is like maybe 4 words. I think there is like the word of shame, and then also the word of guilt, and then also the word of degradation and like humiliation. like I've been reading a lot about this, and there's like different like types of literature makes different definitions of this, like if they use the words in different ways. And the way that I tend to use it is that shame is like based on yourself and your own value, like system, or how you perceive yourself in the world and how you think you should behave and so on. While guilt is kind of external, that's someone else tries to put on top of you, saying that you're guilty of doing that. And it's kind of, now you did these things are wrong, that I kind of put it on you from the outside. Then there is the word like degradation and being put lower than someone. Maybe to be like not human, also to be like a share or an animal and so on. And that I think we play with all the time, because we create this power dynamic where one person is tying, the other one is getting tied, and one person is kind of being helpless and so on. So some kind of degradation, I think, happens all the time. Then it's a question like how far you want to go in it. And then humiliation, I think it also has a lot to do with like losing face. I think humiliation is interesting in the word that it's kind of, that it comes from like humility. And humility comes from being humble, to kind of being like not being, egocentric, self-centered, not being on top of the world, kind of having your, self-worth is such a bad word, but having your ego or something like that's kind of removed and being made into a humble person. And that I think most people want, because I think it feels good to be humble if you are in a space where it's safe to be humble. Like, of course, it's not safe to be humble in a war, but in like an intimate play, I think it's very nice to be forced to be humble, especially if you are a person that is used to fight a lot and be very strong. But I think like how I play practically, I don't make a big difference. Like now I'm doing shame play, now I'm doing humiliation play, now I'm doing degradation play. I think what I actually do is kind of the same. But then people have different relationships to the words. I think it's important that it needs to come from the inside and not from the outside, like with guilt.
With me, I feel like very strong, like verbal connection. Like when I think about humiliation, then it's like you have been spoken dirty to, or like you have put down with words. Maybe you have shamed through action more. I don't know. Can you give any, if we take this talking dirty to someone, have you got any tips how to do it well at home circumstances, not to insult, and because it is like a touchy subject, actually.
Yeah, where to start? You kind of need to touch upon the fantasy that the other person is having. So, like, for example, someone that is very kind of obsessed with being very clean, or being very proper, or being very like have like a lot of makeup, being very beautiful, like putting a clothespin on their tongue and making them drool is kind of a very obvious thing to do. And then when it then comes to dirty talk, it would be then kind of to reaffirm what's going on. Maybe tell them that they are cute when they are a drooling bitch or something like this, or a drooling, I don't know, girl or something. So I think that is one part, like affirming what's happening. So like if you're having sex with someone in a very animalistic, violent way, you can kind of talk about what you're doing. You can also talk about what you're about to do, to kind of have the build up. It's a similar way to like taking out the clothespin very slowly and kind of showing it to them, and telling them that you like to see people that drool, or that it turns you on, and so on. So I think that is one part of like dirty talking, adding words to what's going on or what's going to happen. I also like it a lot to let the other person reflect upon what's happening, or like confirm what's happening. So like, for example, if they have the clothespin in their tongue and they get turned on by the situation, to ask the person if they get turned on by being a drooly mess. Because there is something when you make a statement, it kind of, I don't know if this is like pop psychology, but they say when you make a statement, it's very easy that the mind just ignores it. But when you ask the mind a question, it kind of goes into the subconscious trying to look for an answer for it. So they're asking someone if they enjoy being a drooling, I don't know, mess, actually makes them think about it, and that kind of enhances the experience of it.
Yeah.
That is a really good tip.
Yes.
Thank you.
And also, I think allowing things to take time, because I think if you ask someone this question, it kind of takes them a while. It usually takes the mind a while to reflect upon it. And so I see people that are kind of beginners that they try to just bombard the other person with as much as possible. And just like taking some space between and just saying the things, having good timing, I think is also a good tip, and not just kind of being like bombarding the other person, to actually give them time to think and feel what's the impact of what has been said.
Do you have a shameful story?
Yeah, one of my favorite kind of, I don't know, I think it's a good shameful story. I was with a friend who is kind of well off, so she was staying at a fancy hotel in Stockholm, so I was spending some days with her in this hotel. And then we would go down to the bar and have drinks. And I would tie her underneath her dress. And I tied her so one of her arms were like tied behind her back. So she only had one hand to operate with. And then it was me and another girlfriend and her. And she would go to the bar to order for us. And then, of course, she only has one hand. So then she kind of has to take this one hand, take the wallet up and kind of get this card out. Flip it with one hand, like put the wallet down, and the bartender, I thought, why are you doing this? And then she looks like very pretty and very well dressed, and he doesn't kind of understand why she's only using one hand, which makes everything much slower and much more clumsy. Yeah. And then after that, she is kind of going to bring the drinks to our table. And then comes a question like, so, okay, who will she serve first? And then the bartender watching her, like taking this cocktail first to me, and then to the other girl, and then coming to get her own cocktail, sitting to drink this. So I think this is like a lot playing with status in a way.
Katie, do you have a shameful story?
Oh, I have many. But nothing that awesome pops to mind just now. Yeah, I skip the story at the moment. When I come to it, I'll tell.
For me, I remember I tried to once to stand up, go to open mic. And it's like, when you look at other people doing open mic, it seems like really easy. But when I went on a stage with my jokes, so nobody laughed. And I thought I had like a good set. So I was like, keep doing the jokes. But everybody's like really serious. So you're like super embarrassed in top of the stage. Like all the lights are on you and you're like super embarrassed, and they're like trying to go, and you already are panicking. And like it's not getting any better. But there is like a lot of like adrenaline. You get a big rush out of it, out of this this failure.
And did anyone take care of your vulnerability for you, or did you get to take care of yourself?
No, I when I came down, I just enjoy this rush, and then you go next time again. But hopefully you have improved.
This is a masochist talk.
I would prefer to have someone being my mommy, taking care of me.
You're such a good boy.
Well, I think all the other stand-up comedians would make a lot of fun of me if some woman would come like, oh, it's okay, don't do it.
But I discovered a connection here at the exercises. I try to verbalize it now, and when I have a chance to dominate in this shame exercises, then I tend to turn into this real little smart-ass sadist, so to say. But it's deep, actually. It's very deep inside, because in my childhood, it has been the other way around. And then I somehow discovered that, I feel like I'm like revenging on everybody that has ever said something or done something bad to me. It was really awesome. And my partner had to took it all. It's difficult to control yourself when you're in a role of, or it can be like dangerous to keep control when you're like, not to hurt the other person. That's an observation I made. So your next retreats, you're going to be here again in April, and I know that shame isn't your usual theme that you do.
No, then the theme is desire.
Desire.
And that's about how to create or reenact fantasies and rituals that involves a lot of people. How to create a play party together, and how to kind of explore what fantasies that you have in like a group context. So we're kind of going to become this kind of perverted theater company, reenacting different desires and plays that kind of comes from the people who attends. And then also like a lot of exercises on like how to get in contact with your desire and how to dare to act them out, and like to become like this character or this, character of your dreams in a way.
If you say that this shame topic course isn't really for new beginners, you should have some previous experience either with BDSM or at least self-discovery work or something like this. What about desire?
It's also one of the ones that is a little bit more advanced, because I won't teach you how to do like spanking or how to tie knots. So you kind of need to have some kind of practice around your fantasies already. So it's good that you have played some maybe at home with a private partner, or at least at a lot of fantasies, but it's not like a beginner's course in showing you how to act out your desires. You kind of need to have the tools yourself. It's more about to like figuring out what your desires are and how to play with them in bigger constellations. And maybe it's good if you're open to play in bigger constellations. So like if you come there and you only want to be by yourself, it might feel a bit weird when everyone else is kind of playing together.
Or you will just change your mind because the course is so awesome.
Yeah.
Any last words for all the shameful people out there?
No.
Thank you, Andy, for this awesome interview.
Yeah, thank you for having me again.